night's Coldplay concert thing. Have you seen that thing?
Oh man, that was so wild.
My family was there. I wasn't there, but my family wasn't. They were talking about it, and then I went online and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm connected to this." What is the cursing situation? Because I grew up as a plumber's son from Chelsea, so I gotta tailor it back sometimes. But
I think that might be the most important question ever asked on this podcast.
We're talking about a software that's based in Boston, so I think a certain level of that is to be expected. Hello and welcome to the Partner Playbook, a podcast where we interview HubSpot partners about how to succeed in the HubSpot ecosystem. I am Ryan Gunn, founder of Attribution Academy.
And I'm Brian Garvey, co-founder of Profoundly.
Today we're joined by Jeff Kushmerek, founder and CEO of Infinite Renewals. Jeff and his team specialize in helping B2B SaaS companies scale by optimizing their post-sale operations, with a particular focus in unlocking the full power of HubSpot's Service Hub.
That's awesome. Jeff, we're so excited to have you. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm psyched.
To kick things off, I'm going to jump right in. I would love to hear a little bit about your background, your journey to HubSpot, how you ended up in the HubSpot ecosystem.
Yeah, I'll try and cut through the sort of, 20, 25 plus years really fast, but I was a developer that talked too much back in the day, and I was at a company called Endeca. So if you're in the Boston Mafia system, you know that whole thing. And then I was at a company called Brightcove, and that's when everything moved from on-premise to SaaS. And I was an operating executive for just a lot of companies around Boston. Started off in running professional services teams, things like that. And then you started seeing the specialization. Because back then, PS did like everything. They did the CSMs, they did the support, they did everything. And then we started getting into more specialization. Wound up happening is I was at a company. I was just say a company called Virgin. I think everybody knows Virgin, but Virgin Pulse, which is a sort of a health company. There was a big layoff, and I actually went to go work for an SI with a team that I'd paired up with from when I was consulting a whole bunch of startups. And that was like as a professional services executive for a while. I was really excited to do what I call like real professional services, which is without this support system of selling a product. As in, you tell us what you need, we're going to go do it, right? And then I went back into, I got pulled back into the SaaS world for about 6 short months. That's when COVID kicked in. I've been doing some consulting on the side. So I just said, hey, let's just kind of keep doing the consulting thing. And for about 4.5 years, and I built up a team of former Endeca and Brightcove people. We were being brought in and doing a variety of post-sale consulting. We could be go in and do an audit. We could be your fractional leaders, fractional CCOs were showing up to a lot of board meetings and things like that. And also just a lot of mentoring and things like that. I can get into the HubSpot story. So I have a good friend. His name is Jay Nathan. He had been doing some consulting to HubSpot on a yearly basis on around customer success stuff. And he knew my background. We actually had played in a band together and stuff like that at some conferences, and just really hit it off. So you knew the PS background, he knew the customer success background and everything like that. And he knew we were doing some churn zero things and some plan hat things. And, it was basically what our companies just needed help with. We weren't really specializing too much. And he said, Jeff, would you ever specialize on a software? I said, if there was one that I really liked and worked well. And he said, have you looked into the HubSpot stuff? I said, I've tried. I've been a HubSpot customer since I started the business. But it was in beta and a private beta and things like that. Not to name drop too much, but I have a few friends that are pretty high up in HubSpot. So let me pull that card. And there's a guy I coach basketball with, and Brian, you might know him. His name is Brad Coffey. And so I reached out to Brad. We coach basketball together. Our daughters play basketball together. And I said, hey, I hate to do this, but I've got a PE company asking me if I'd like to start an SI focused on HubSpot. And I think there's a lot going on around Service Hub and AI with what I'm seeing with everything going on with Finn and stuff like that, which was right on his radar with some other stuff. So if you know Brad, like we're having coffee like the next day. And then he introduced me to Paul Weston, who's the GM of the Service Hub. And I just told him, hey, I'm sort of evaluating this coming in from this play that this private equity group that I'm aligned with does, which is they create SIs that are super aligned to one platform. Like And so I dropped all of my churn zeros and everything. Like I'm focused on HubSpot, and they've got like a Pendo company and like an Airtable company. And I said, and so what we're really trying to do is blend domain expertise and the SI component, because that's what's powerful. And
Yep.
so I, met all his product team, and we started seeing the vision, and we're going back and forth on things. So it was a very collaborative process. And that's when I said, okay, I'm gonna launch this. And we did a whole bunch of things and got a couple customers live before the spring show, where they rolled out a beta for the customer success workspace, which is pretty much, I call, like, not necessarily a gain site killer, but definitely, like, because you always need some enterprise types of software, but like definitely for the pieces of software that are underneath serving the SMB markets and things like that. So your Vitals, your Plan Hats, your somewhat churn zeros and things like that. I definitely saw the attraction for that. Especially, I will say, we have a variety of customers. Some are 1 million to 10 million, some are like $1 billion. And I felt terrible seeing that they needed some level of automation and that they're dying in spreadsheets. And then I'm like, okay, so go spend $40,000 to $50,000 on this software. It's going to take about 3 to 6 months to go launch, and then you won't see your results for another about 3 months, because everything in CS has this lag factor to it. And there you go. And good luck with that.
Yeah.
So what I saw was that we could set everything up that we needed to do in about 2 to 3 weeks for what every bit let's get the foundations down, right? And that's what most teams really need.
Yeah.
So there's your long story, and how I got involved with HubSpot.
I love that. And it's such an interesting journey to HubSpot, honestly. Like, you've developed real deep expertise in customer retention and churn, and to take that and move into the HubSpot realm it's a little different, I think.
Yeah, and that's sort of what they said. We really need partners that understand the domain expertise. I mean, I know we can get it in with some of our further conversations, but there's a big difference between a salesperson or a sales engineer coming in and talking about features versus somebody who's usually brought in to say, here's what you need to do. And I'm saying, you need to do this, and it's boom, 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 and it's all right here, and you should probably do this.
I was just having a conversation yesterday with another partner who was asking advice on, how to differentiate in the HubSpot partner marketplace, because there's so many companies. And my advice to him was literally like, nobody is focusing on Services Hub. There are so few partners that specialize in that space.
How dare you, Ryan, when you need it.
So not none. But you have carved out definitely a niche that is being underserved right now. There are so many companies that are jumping over from other services platforms. And
I mean, it all starts with the marketing people. I swear every conversation we've had is like, okay, we have the CRO, he brought in Salesforce, but then we hired our marketing person, and they brought it over HubSpot. They're basically, I'm not joining unless I can have HubSpot, right? And then that CRO is gone, and then they just want to move everything over. But with the AI plays going on, services, especially the support element of the software piece, that's where we're seeing all the AI benefits these days, right? As I like to say, and some people are sick of me saying this, but like, it's so powerful that Zendesk and Intercom moved to a per resolution model, because even Andrews and Horowitz said, if they stay on usage-based pricing, they're going to go out of business, because with the AI stuff that they have, they need less users, right? So, and they were seeing that real cutback, and it's like, whoa, we got to kind of pay on the per resolution thing like that. So that just shows you that one data point, just the massive impact that having AI with your support software can do for you. So,
and I don't know about your experience with this, but looking at the agents within HubSpot that they've already released, like Customer Agent is head and shoulders above the others.
Cool. Yeah, you get it launched in like a day, but also once the knowledge base agent comes out of beta, which is soon, I'm not allowed to say when, but I think we all know when that is. And those two are just, I mean, if we're talking about software companies that are in the 2 to 10 million range, where they're too busy to write documentation and you can just fire up the knowledge base agent, like some companies that we've helped beat against Zendesk and everything, they went out and bought like Forethought and strapped it onto their Zendesk because it's so bad. And they need that solution to have the knowledge base created and things like that. So that is super powerful for so many reasons. It brings your deflection down, but it also brings your customer success happier, right? Not everybody wants to get on a phone call and they just want to, we all have that, Verizon, Situ, or Comcast, or whoever your provider is, when you just type the thing in and you get the responses back and you're like, oh, good, that's great. That's all I needed to do, right? And in that, you can provide that at scale, massive bonus, and you don't have to go hire all these people to go do it, and then the people that you have can then focus on the bigger issues instead of just dealing with the like, can you reset my password, or where's the link to the X, right? So yeah.
I am personally someone who will do anything possible to not get on a phone call. So
you and me both.
I am the target market for AI support.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible. So Jeff, I'm curious, is you are, personifying the niche strategy that Ryan and I talk about a lot. Sort of, I think we talked about it separately, and then now as part of the podcast,
every single episode.
Yeah, we're fully aligned on it. Like, can you talk a little bit about like, how does that decision to really focus on Service Hub, like how does that change your conversation with clients versus like a more generalist partner?
Yeah, and we can do all that stuff, right? Like, the team that we have for the development side of things is, been working in HubSpot for 10 plus years, and they know all the different hubs and CRMs and things like that. But, we've all seen the companies who, had poor onboarding. They filled out some checklist and then they're like, what the heck is this, right? And if, it's kind of like looking at a mirror inside a mirror type of thing. Like, working with customer success teams is all about getting outcomes, right? And so you can't just launch CS software. And we've been working with helping launch CS software for over 5 years, and we always saw what those problems were, which is overcomplicating things and not focusing on the right things and just getting the basics right. But you need the domain experience to be able to do it, right? And you need to be able to say, like, what do I as a CS leader need to do? What do I as a standard CSM need to do? As an onboarding specialist needs to do? As a support person? And just, I can, this isn't, I hate doing this because it sounds like we're just patting ourselves on the back, but, we've gotten contacted by like friends of our friends. And they're like, hey, they had a bad implementation, and it's over and they can't roll it out yet. And they got on a call with us, and I got screenshots of people saying, like, you fixed everything. Well, you answered all the questions that we hadn't even thought of in 30 minutes. Give us your email that we need to put into the, site so you can go in and go fix it for us. And you give people that confidence because you're asking good questions. And this is, by the way, why I always did when I worked at SaaS companies, bring in the services people, bring in the implementation people, because usually they weren't on commission. They ask great questions. They just want to make sure they don't get stuck on a terrible project. And they just get a good rapport going with the customer, right? And and that's domain expertise, right? And then, so that I've just always, that's my core. Like, and we all know when we're faking it till we're making it. It's like, it's an uncomfortable conversation, right? So I just said, let's really just focus on what we know and around these two things. And then it's also kind of getting in at the ground floor on some newer things and some newer initiatives where it's kind of like working with a startup with the people that I'm aligned with internally at HubSpot.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
When you have potential clients coming to you and they have more than just Service Hub needs, they have, maybe some marketing or sales needs. Do you guys make exceptions to service that? Do you turn them away? Do you have other partners?
We'll absolutely take them. I mean, because it's the same approach. Like, what are you trying to do with this, right? It's coming in with either like a RevOps approach, which, we typically work with a lot of. I will say that, the good thing about on the marketing side, they usually have a marketing person who really knows what they want and what their needs are. And then you just kind of, the thing that most services people need to be able to do is to understand the business requirements and then being able to map those to the technical things in the background, validate that with the customer, and then go out and build it, and then have a nice little QA process, burn in, make sure it's working right. And those are some basics that not everybody follows, right? It's like, let's crank them through with the volume game, check the box. No, we're just doing these 10 things and setting them up for you. So I don't know.
Turn and burn.
But that's sort of our approach. So we don't turn things down, but it's good to niche, right? I mean, and you have to know your appropriate levels of niche. Just as a note, like, I was consulting to consultants trying to launch their consulting companies a few years ago. And there was this book that I used to follow And they said, think of an accountant, right? And if they just put their website out and they said, I'm an accountant, right? They're not going to get any business because it's too general, right? So then you say, no, I'm an accountant for startups. Like, oh, okay. I'm a tax accountant for startups. Okay, even better. Too much is I'm a tax accountant for startups with redheaded founders that live in San Francisco. Like, okay, we went a little too niche here. So trying to find out what that level of niche is, but no, we won't turn it down, because the dev team has specifically worked on a lot of those products. But you do have to make sure that there's somebody on the customer team that knows what they're trying to do from a business side of things, or at least what outcomes that they're trying to get. For me, it's all about the outcomes that people are looking for.
Could we just touch, I'd love to dive deep there on that in particular. How does your process differ? We've all encountered the customer that's like, I just need this one thing. Like, can you just do this one thing? And you're like, you're missing this. I think we've talked about broken data models and all the things. Like, how does your process change? How do you handle situations like that?
So I learned a lot, and this will tie off some of the other things we're sort of aligned with talking about, which is when you grow up in your professional career, trying to launch customers for a piece of software versus just building stuff, right? When you're working, there's a saying we say, which is like, just don't fuck with the renewal, right? And if you go in there and you make your process too complicated and it sucks and the customers can't stand what they're doing, they know, like our best salespeople used to call up the deals that they lost 3 weeks later and say, how's that implementation going? And they would say, if we can have a kickoff call tomorrow, I will cancel this thing and I will move over, right?
Yeah.
And so you get that by not having a good process, not focusing on the most important things, and going from there, right? So so I always had that, don't mess up the renewal. The other thing that I learned is to make it really easy to buy services, right? And people don't like open-ended things like, okay, let's go on like an 8K a month thing and we'll just kind of crank through stuff. And they're like, yeah, but is that 5 months or is that 2 months? Right? So I always built packages, right? Yeah. And just to make it easy. And it's kind of, if you've all been through contracting, it's like, wait, this is all, it becomes very finite at that point, right? Oh, you need X, you need Y, you need Z. When you give somebody a very defined scope, then they can turn back around and say, oh, this is everything I need. Perfect. Or, hey, what about the X or the Y? It's kind of like a conversation starter, right? I like to say, with our domain expertise for a lot of the stuff on Service Hub, we come out and say, this is what you need to be able to do, right? Like our for the customer success side of things, say nobody should do anything unless they've already done a renewal, a risk, and a relationship thing, right? And the relationships like a QBR, or could be a Loom video that goes out to 15,000 people if you're, got a high volume thing. But regardless, you need to focus on those three things. So we'll go build those for you, and some other stuff. I'm not trying to do a big pitch here, but and that's what the majority of people need, especially if they don't have a piece of software and they're just trying to keep their head out of spreadsheets and that have 15 tabs and they're just hating their life. Some other people may be transitioning off of some of these other pieces of software. And then we say, walk us through what you're doing, what you're trying to do, where are the pain points? And that's kind of that domain expertise thing versus saying like, what fields do you want to configure? What are the resolutions that you want? What are the playbooks that you need? And somebody's like, oh, I need 15 playbooks. I'm like, do you? Do you need 15 playbooks? Or do you need maybe 3 to start and then kind of go from there, right? So it's a little bit more of like with the domain expertise, like if I was your CCO, this is what I would do. And it's a good start. Like also like, I don't know, just probably great metaphors, but don't order the big fancy extras or don't order dessert until you've had your dinner or something like that. So.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where, if they knew exactly what they needed done, they could go hire a freelancer to just execute.
Totally. Right.
I think the real value that partners provide is that strategy, is that domain expertise you were talking about, because it's a lot of clients, and I experienced this working when I was a consultant. They think they know exactly what they want. And then when you start probing, when you start asking like, well, why do you think you need that exact solution? You get to the core of the problem and suddenly you're like, you don't need that solution.
Exactly.
You need 3 levels below that and you need to scale up from there.
Isn't it funny that the thing that always is like when you're scoping, you're like, oh man, this thing is terrible. And it's going to take so long. And you're like, oh yeah, that's the thing we really want the least. Just put a strike through, right? It always happens that way, right? Like the Android app. Nobody wants the Android app, right? So yeah. I'm just kidding.
We talked through your journey. It's, I mean, pretty remarkable run here already. What advice would you give to sort of other partners or sort of those that are looking to start in the ecosystem? Like you've been able to navigate this
Yep.
really well, really fast. Just curious what your advice would be.
I mean, be lucky, right? It's like, oh, I got lucky from doing this for 25 years and I've got domain expertise now, but people will have domain expertise, right? Or go in and focus on something and predict what the market. I mean, AI is huge now. Look at all the different things you can do with AI and things like that. But if you don't have that expertise, I would say, or look for these untapped markets or these untapped things. I also just like focus on quality. The complaints I hear are around like crap implementations where they just don't care and they're just looking to crank stuff out and things like that. And, like you're not going to get referral, you'll get a lot of business from behind the firewall at HubSpot if you're doing good things for their customers and they can refer to you, but if you're doing crappy work, that's not going to happen, right? So focus on quality, focus on the relationship and things like that.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, quality, I think, is something that is becoming a lot more important. For a long time, HubSpot was really incentivizing software sales and like the lifetime commissions that you would get from that. And I think when it was only servicing SMBs, that was okay. Now it's mid-market and enterprise, and it's much more important to like have good implementations and create sticky customers.
Absolutely.
But there's a big part of the ecosystem that I think is still stuck in the, let's sell software, let's get things in and out.
To be honest, I mean, when I go around, I start talking to like the growth specialists and people like that. I'm like, I just want the services. So I'm not going after your seats or whatever. So that's kind of the approach that I've been taking. Like, I'm never looking at like commissions off of deals and, how many am I managing in X, Y, and Z and all that stuff. That stuff all comes naturally if you do all the right stuff, I feel. So, yeah.
So you've been doing this, like you said, 25 plus years in various professional services businesses. How does working inside the HubSpot ecosystem differ from working outside?
Yeah. So it's, first of all, usually when you're a partner, you're doing SI type of related things, usually somebody's coming to you with either a sales or a delivery problem, right? And I always tell people, don't confuse the two, because you see a lot of people like, we'll give you all this delivery if you go sell our stuff. And I'm like, well, what problem are you trying to solve here? Like, and so, you got to get through that first, is that there's this huge team out there, right? And so I remember some of the companies I worked before, like we'd get contacted by like, I'm trying to think of a big company back in there, like a Pegasystems or something like that. And hey, do you want to help deploy our stuff? And you're dealing with like a smaller team, an enterprise team. Some of the other portfolio companies that I had mentioned, they're dealing with smaller sales teams and everything. So it's kind of been more of almost like doing demand generation, but doing demand generation for people at HubSpot. I don't want to give away too many secrets, but like sending an email, look how we just beat Intercom, click here to read more. And, let's go after these, and like listing sales strategies for how they can penetrate their base more, and, and finding out how these people get commissions and just getting them to get their commissions. One of the best quotes I have is a growth specialist saying like, thanks for the layup. Like, it's halfway through the month and suddenly they got an extra 10 seats that they didn't. And I'm like, oh, take the seats. I'm just here to go launch it for them and things like that. So yeah,
it's a one target company ABM strategy.
How do you navigate that? Like there are so many different teams within HubSpot. Like, how do you think about, the BD team, the growth team, CS team, services team? Like, how do you?
I did a tops down, bottoms up approach, right? I made ourselves valuable to Paul. We have a really great working relationship, and he introduced me to Yamini, right? And I had to sit down with her, and I said, who are the people that we should be working with? This team here and this team here. Let me make those intros. But then you have to do the work after, right? You got to prove to them why you can help them out and everything like that. So and you have to have that focus and patience, right? Because nobody likes, these people are super, this is $1 billion company, right? They're super busy. So, and then at the same time, every person I meet, I thank, and maybe I send them like a coffee voucher or whatever. And I'm just kind of treating them, if we're working on deals and things like that, I treat everybody like I treat the top. I treat the same people that I treat people that are, I hate even saying bottom, but like from the phrase tops down, bottoms up, like the people that I'm meeting that are on the ground doing the actual thing, selling the deals, working with the customers. And I'm not able to penetrate some teams. Ironically, not really doing well with the customer success team. So, even though I'm friendly and we're all, on LinkedIn's customer success groups and things like that, we don't have a real working relationship like that. But I'm taking the lead from my people, and I'm also, where they're trying to break in and certain things, I'm making introductions. Certain things I can't say and everything, but like, industry things like analysts and things like that, like talking to them and saying, and they're like, Jesus, what, you just totally stopped working with X, Y, and Z, and now you're doing this. And I'm like, yeah, you should take a look at it. I will tell you this. I was just on with the SST team and told them the same thing. I got a call out from one of my former coworkers who is the CS lead at a, let's just say, very large private equity firm that used to own a very large customer success platform. And they're kind of like, can you show me this thing? And I was like, sure. Right. And I opened up my demo environment, boom, 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 walked through X, Y, and Z, but showed the reports, showed the activity, showed all the stuff that we have this sort of base package that my team launches and everything. And there's a lot of silence. And she goes, yeah, some of these companies are going to have some rough couple of years. And she was talking about all the other CSPs out there. And then that also translates into the support software as well, too. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
All right, Jeff, I think we've got time for one more question.
Sure, fire away.
Looking at your focus on Service Hub, I feel like you really have, you've kind of seen the future already in how that is growing so fast. So what do you see going forward from here? How is the ecosystem going to change in the next few years?
Without sounding like everybody on LinkedIn, we are seeing the AI focus, but as I call it, it's real AI. It's not the generative bullshit. Sorry for my terminology, but that's my term for it. It was, oh my God, we've got auto email. I'm like, yeah, we had templates too. Like, it's really not that much different, right? So, but trying to map up roadmap stuff with the product team, with what I'm hearing out there as requests and things like that. It's seeing what's happened to the support lifecycle and then translating that to the customer success team. And then there's obviously going to be stuff going on with sales and things, we see AI, SDRs and all those types of things out there. But if I'm focusing on the Service Hub, we are looking at customers being happier because their resolutions are happening faster. My whole big thing, pre-HubSpot and everything else, is customers they churn if they don't see the value in what they bought, right? And they might even be getting the value, but nobody's telling them they're getting the value, right? Or you sold up here, you got aligned with somebody down here, and then you're never telling this person up there, and they're like, I don't know, I never hear from them. And then somebody else sweet talks them at a conference, and they're like, yeah, because it's SaaS, we're just going to rip this out and put that in there, right? We need to find better ways than a 45-minute QBR, getting that information to our people and letting them know that they're getting the value. And so we're going to just be seeing more of these, transactional, I don't want to say transactional, but a little bit more on the AI. This is putting agents in place to be able to really get to what people are looking at. I'm really trying not to talk about roadmap stuff, so I have to speak a little vague, but it's coming, and we'll see a lot of this very soon.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey to HubSpot, your focus on Service Hub. Before we go, do you want to let people know where they can find you and shout out anything that Infinite Renewals is up to?
Yeah, Infinite Renewals. I mean, if you go there, you can find all our LinkedIn profiles. I'm probably the most active. Marketing team's always making sure that I'm stuff. So if you like reading about everything I just talked about today and maybe occasional bad memes and coffee material, I'm definitely your guy for that. And the good also, too, if you see a meme, those are usually the most informational ones because I always feel bad about doing those. So I really make sure there's a lot of data in those because I feel like I'm really cheapening my message using memes. But yeah, just find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place and go from there. So yeah.
Brian, you want to fill us in on what's going on at Profoundly?
Yeah, I mean, continue to sort of scale and super excited about inbound. I think from this conversation as well, a trend that keeps coming up is services first, experts first, expertise first. And I couldn't be more excited about that, right?
If I could, Brian, you just remind me, I am speaking at Inbound. So I've got a session called How We Save 28% and then for our customers, GRR. So that'll be our speech. So you hear a lot about what we talked in depth and maybe even some how we did this with HubSpot as well, too. So there we go.
There
Sorry
it is.
about that. I stole your thunder. I was on the Profoundly town hall today, and it was awesome. And I saw the updated website stuff, so it looked really great. So
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. And no, you didn't steal my thunder at all. It is reinforcing it. Like, I think your expertise, the experts that are there, we've heard from others that bringing services forward, and from you today, is a path to success and a best practice. So I couldn't be more excited. I'm going to cede all my time to you, in fact.
cede my time to Ryan. This guy can really suck up the air in a room, right? I don't want to take that. So I'll turn back to Ryan.
I love it. Yeah, Ryan, what's up with Attribution Academy?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with our inbound theme here. I have opened up pre-sales for the Attribution Mastery Certification course from Attribution Academy, and I just ordered some high quality temporary tattoos that will have a QR code that I'll be rocking at inbound. So if you see me,
Face tattoo like Mike Tyson.
it will not be on my
Thought
face.
for some reason.
Maybe I'll rock a neck tattoo, but
Nice.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Yeah.
But if you see me, you can scan that QR code and it will give you a pretty hefty discount on the course. And it should be launching probably right after inbound. So that'll be kind of the last hurrah for the discounted enrollment. All right, I think that's going to wrap us up for this episode of the Partner Playbook. Thanks again to our guest, Jeff Kushmerek, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.